Elias and Sarah had chosen the deep perimeter site, 3 miles past the last marked trail. Elias wanted a weekend away from the noise of the city. By 2 a.m. he would have given anything for a car horn or a distant siren. The first movement. The scratching began at midnight. It wasn't the sound of a squirrel or a raccoon. It was the sound of a long, dull blade dragging against the nylon of their tent. Scritch, scritch, scritch. Elias, Sarah whispered, her voice barely a tremor. Something is touching the rainfly. Elias gripped his flashlight, his knuckles white. He clicked it on. The beam hit the tent wall, revealing a shadow that made his heart stutter. It wasn't a hand. It was a silhouette of a finger, impossibly long with at least 4 joints pressing firmly into the fabric. It traced the outline of Sarah's head from the outside. The mimicry. Before Elias could shout, the sound started. It wasn't a growl. It was Sarah's voice. "Elias, let me in. It's cold out here," the voice said from just inches behind the thin nylon. But Sarah was sitting right in front of him, her mouth clamped shut, her eyes wide with primal terror. The voice outside was a perfect, digital, clear replica of her own, but the cadence was wrong, flat and rhythmic, like a record skipping. "Elias, let me in. Elias, let me in. Elias, let me in." Then, a heavy thud. Something wet and massive slumped against the tent, bowing the poles inward. The smell hit them then, wet copper and old, stagnant basement water. The unfolding. "We have to run," Elias mouthed. He didn't wait. He unzipped the flap and shoved Sarah toward the Jeep, parked 50 yards away. The forest was no longer dark. It was wrong. The trees didn't look like oaks or pines anymore. In the beam of their bouncing flashlights, the bark looked like stretched gray skin. There were no crickets, no wind. They reached the Jeep, but the headlights revealed why the woods were so quiet. Dozens of them were standing in the clearing. They were tall, nearly 8 feet, and skeletal, their limbs thin as saplings. They had no faces, just smooth, pale skin stretched over bone, save for a single, vertical slit where a mouth should be. They weren't moving. They were just waiting. The final sound. Elias fumbled the keys, the engine roaring to life. As the high beams cut through the tree line, he saw one of the entities standing directly in front of the hood. It didn't flinch. It opened its vertical slit, and a sound came out that broke Elias's mind. It wasn't a scream. It was the sound of his own mother's voice from 20 years ago, singing him a lullaby. Then, it shifted to the sound of Sarah crying. Then, it shifted to the exact sound of the car engine dying. The Jeep sputtered and went black. In the sudden, suffocating silence, the scratching began again. Not on the tent, but on the glass of the driver's side window. Scritch. 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 "Elias," Sarah whispered, looking into the rearview mirror. "Why is there a third person in the back seat?"